Welcome back to the Always Aggressive podcast. Cory Palm alongside Tanner Lipsett and head coach Tony Ersland. Thanks for joining us this week, boys. We're just chugging along here in the fall semester. I know a lot of things have happened in the last couple weeks since we last talked, but let's get down into the nitty gritty. First of all, we'll start as small as we can. How you fellas doing today?
I'm doing well. Fall weather's been great, man. The weather lately has been beautiful, not only for working out, because, we're still outside working out, but just to be outside has been awesome. So I've really enjoyed the last week and look forward to the upcoming week as well.
It is definitely that we've got that crisp fall weather going on. It's that light sweatshirt weather that is one of my favorites for sure. The bummer has been that I also feel like it's football weather.
Yeah.
And while we haven't had football, now we got the announcement that we're going to have football, so that's super exciting. Tony, you can kind of weigh in. Like, obviously, everybody loves football and it's great to watch it and be excited about it. But obviously, it has bigger ramifications for us.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, it's part of our lifeblood, right, as an athletic department. So the impact is huge. I'm just a huge college football fan anyway. I just one of the sports that I've really always gravitated to and really enjoy. So, at least the prospect of watching games on TV, Saturday, sitting on the back of the deck or, in the living room, just, hanging out, enjoying a game is something I'm going to really look forward to. And I know we're probably going to talk about the deadline or, extension of the dead period. I mean, I'll have a little more time on Saturdays to enjoy those games. So, it's going to be fun. I'm glad the SEC is starting up this weekend. We'll see how that goes. And then obviously third week in October, Purdue is going to wind it up as well. So it's getting to be more normal, I guess, of a fall.
We're working that direction for sure. And so you alluded to it, so I suppose let's go ahead and move there. We got news this past week that the recruiting period for the NCAA, the dead period as they call it, although a lot of people aren't a fan of that name. We're gonna have to work on a new name. Cory, let me know if you got any ideas.
Yeah, I'll noodle it around a little bit.
Okay.
Something that will put a smile on her face more than like dead period.
Dead period.
Yeah.
But also, then it's weird to be like, oh, it's a dead period, and have a big smile on your face and be excited. Right. It's just, there's nothing normal about it.
No.
And nothing exciting about it.
No. So what that means for people who don't know is that we are unable to travel to go see recruits, and we are unable to host recruits on campus in an official capacity from until after the turn of the year, January 1, 2021. And so obviously things are different. We could go through a lot of the negatives of those, but let's be glass half full today. And what have been some of the positives of this change in the recruiting period for this fall? And have you seen any things that have advantage is the wrong word, but like, have you seen anything that's given you kind of a positive spin on how this has worked?
Well, I think that, anytime there's change, and change is good, right? You can't take that as a negative. Anytime there's change, you have to adjust, you have to adapt, you have to find ways to still thrive within the parameters you're given, right? I mean, the easiest way is you think about, where freestyle and Greco was years ago. The rules were changing all the time. And yes, that's tough, but still, hey, you're going to compete for an Olympic title. Here's the rules. You got to figure it out. And you got to find a way to get your hand raised. And to me, that's no different now. Okay, we have a different set of parameters, but you've got to stretch yourself and find new and better ways to grow, okay, and get where you want to be. Path is different. The goals are the same, right? And so for us, I think it's just challenge us to, okay, maybe it's more, how can we present what campus is, what our facilities are, what that experience is going to be virtually. And then how do you kind of build relationships when they're not always face to face, and so those challenges are productive. I think it only makes you better if you can, deliver your message when you're not always face to face and can't always show them, right then and there what it is. It forces you to kind of really break things down, be really efficient in your communication and really excel at that. So I think there's been some really good things. And obviously, The compliance part, the NCAA has given us a little more leeway and some different things that we can do. There's some cool things that you can do to help guys get familiar with your team, whether it's observing a practice or maybe listening to a motivational speech or any kind of like, to use a football term, like if you want to sit in and while they're doing a chalk talk, breaking down film or something, there's opportunities there to use that to your advantage. And so I think, I've been happy with what we've done and how we've kind of grown from that. Yes, I would love to have kids on campus. I just, there's no substitute for the real thing. But at the same time, I think we've found ways to grow and still kind of present our vision and build relationships with kids. That is paramount.
It's been really hard, I think, for us in particular, just from the fact that, and you say this a lot, getting kids to campus for us is a huge deal because they get to see firsthand all the things we've been telling them. And see that it all lines up. It all matches, and we're so proud of all the people that we have associated with the program and getting kids and their families and their parents to meet our collective group is such a big thing for us. But no, I think we've, like you said, you have to find a different way.
Yeah.
The goals are the same. The path is different.
Yeah, those are the rules you're given, right? I mean, these are the match rules now, okay? There didn't used to be a 4-point near fall. There's a 4-point near fall. You can sit around and whine about it, or you can figure out how to turn people, right? So it's the same way. We can sit around and we can whine, or we can figure out how to recruit people virtually.
Well, that reminds me of when you're competing. You go onto the mat with maybe a game plan, and then maybe the opponent's not adhering to your game plan. Maybe the referee's calling it a little bit differently. Maybe, you have to adjust on the fly. You have to be flexible. And I think, it seems like the staffs who can be the most flexible, who can figure it out on the fly first, are really going to sort of have the advantage here.
Yep, no doubt. And I think, I feel good about what we've done. I mean, you always feel like you can do better for sure, but we managed to secure a really good commitment. Obviously, we can't talk names or specifics, but, we still have a young man who committed during this time that really fits what we really value. We think we got somebody who fits our culture and our work ethic and our mindset. And so we feel really good about it. Obviously there's no substitute, like I said, for the real thing. And we can't wait to go back to, campus visits as well. We look forward to that. But, for now, it's going well, and we want to continue to build on it.
Yeah, it's been interesting. We're about a little less than 2 months out from signing day for these 2021 kids. And we have a handful of kids that are waiting to sign an NLI then. It'll be really exciting to talk about them at that point. And then we've, with the new rules, we're in year two of the
Yep.
being able to talk to the juniors.
Yep.
And so, we have a host of 2022 kids that we're starting to build those relationships with and get a chance to know them and their families and what they're about. And it's, like you said, it's different. And so I think, like everything else, we will, Cory talked about those coaches being flexible and who's going to make the most of this time and so on and so forth. And it'll be interesting, a couple of years from now, after all these kids have signed and they wind up on campuses, who did it the best, who adjusted the best to be able to, grow and nurture those relationships to have kids wind up signing and attending their institutions.
Yeah. And for us, and I'm sure it's this way for lots of coaches, right? The best reason to have a kid join your program is just because they're excited to be there, and I say that meaning, kids can choose programs for a variety of reasons. It can be workout partners. It can be coaches. It can be a major, this school has my major. It's really strong in that area and I'm going to tremendous degree. And we're fortunate. Purdue has lots of those boxes checked, right? We're in the right conference, terrific university, coaching staff, workout. Okay. There's a lot of things there, but still, do you feel like the team is one you'll fit in well? Do you feel like you fit in well with the coaches? And so to do that in this world right now is more challenging, right? And so I just had a conversation the other night with a young man about that. It's like, hey, he's getting really close to a decision. And I just said, hey, we still would love you to come stop by campus on your own. I can't have contact, but just to get a feel for it. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you never want somebody to commit and then decommit because they don't have the feel for your program. You want them to be invested and to be excited about their future there and how they're going to be challenged to grow. So you still think about those things. You have to have those conversations, because it's about getting the right people. It's not just about getting the most talented people. I've been, part of programs where we had access to terrific talent, and you take the talent and then you get there and you figure out, well, their mindset or their work ethic isn't exactly what we want. And then the fit isn't as well. All right. And you're not on the same page, and that's a problem. So trying to make sure, at least do your best to get kids who you think fit your program is crucial.
Yeah. So, you talk about finding kids and you talk about identifying those people. Lots of opportunities have happened in the past couple weeks. Lots of opportunities coming. Some of those big tournaments that we like to go to every year. Grappler Fall Classic, Super 32, who's number one, all coming up on the horizon, and we can't go, so we're gonna have to do it a little different. We're thankful for outlets like Track Wrestling and Flow Wrestling and some of these other streaming platforms that are allowing us to watch these young men compete all over the country. Some of them have had to relocate. Both the Grappler and Super 32 are moving to it's Myrtle Beach, correct, Tony?
I believe so. Don't quote me. I think for sure I know GFC is going to Myrtle Beach. I would have to check to see if that's what Super 32 finalized.
I think Super 32 just announced that they're going to Myrtle as well.
Okay.
I think that was they're moving because they're usually in Tennessee or North Carolina.
North Carolina, Greensboro.
That's right. Okay. So they're relocating as well. So how are we or how are you, planning on following all these events, and how have you followed the ones that have happened already?
I think you already mentioned it. You have Track Wrestling, you have Flow Wrestling, you have a number of outlets that stream matches and to get results. And so, that's from an evaluation standpoint, you have access to those. And that's been this way for a long time. Let's face it, guys, how we spend recruiting dollars has changed over time. It used to be you used all of your recruiting money just to maybe go to these events, state tournaments, Fargo, Ironman, Super 32, whatever they may be. And that's where a majority of your recruiting dollars went. And while we still do a lot of that because you get to see the kids and create relationships, as I said, just from an evaluation standpoint, we've always had access to go back and watch archive matches in Track or Flow or whatever. So that's been that way for a number of years. And so it's really changed. Like maybe I would go to a practice. I've spent more time going to practices, club workouts, or different things like that, where you get a chance to really watch a young man for hours. How do they respond to coaching? How do they respond to the details of what they're being told? And then again, maybe you go on a day when they're really letting the fur fly and there's going to be a lot of live, how do they hold up over the course of the hour? What's their mentality like? So we've really gone maybe more that route with looking at kids and getting to know them better than just the event-driven things. And so it is nice. We can still evaluate just from watching the matches on Track and Flow. You just got, as we talked about here at length, you got to be a little more creative in creating those relationships in a different way.
When you, when you can't go to the event, I know that, typically, we'll just say Super 32 for the choice, for the use of, just referring to a tournament. We're going to go and we're going to, there's guys that we're interested in, right? We've got our list per se. How does it in the past, you've gone and you come back and you see the guys that you like, but then you notice other guys. How has it been in some of these tournaments that have already happened? Like, has it been more challenging to stumble on new guys? Is it the same? Is it like, how is it, how are we noticing new talent and maybe having guys pop on our radar that weren't there before?
Well, I think that is one of the dangers of not being in the events in person, because you're not always, you have a list, right? When you're going into an event, you have a list of guys, and you always want to grow the list. So being able to sit in the gym and see 4 mats, 8 mats, 12 mats at one time does allow you to pick up on some of those kids. So I think that might be the challenge for COVID is, are you going to miss some of those guys, or are you still going to do your homework and dig out some of those kids who are really kind of developing late in their career, but really, are going to have successful college, careers as well. I do see that as a challenge, I think, but, again, that's just from watching matches, guys, me, Coach Shop, Coach Vega, Coach Soufflone, everybody watching matches. And you hope that, hey, yeah, I saw this kid, he looked really good, so it's just everybody kind of doing their jobs. And if you see something you like, hey, let's get on this guy,
Yeah. Do you see this hurting the class of 23 and 24 at all from an evaluation perspective, in regards to, like, while we can't, we go to these events and we can't talk to those kids, we can't have any contact with them. They're not old enough yet, but maybe there's some guys that catch our eye and that we can identify and, put on the list for later.
I think when you're talking about that far down the road, I don't think so. I hope not. Let me put it that way. We have time, right? You still have lots of time to evaluate and get to know these guys. I mean, some of them you can't even contact yet, right?
Sure.
You're just trying to build your list. So, I don't think so, especially with the dead period ending here in January. I mean, let's knock on wood and hope it's not extended. There is still time for that class and the classes coming down the road to create those relationships and to have those experiences. You just want to make sure that people, parents in particular, parents and kids, don't panic, right? Like, there's enough stress and anxiety with what's going on in the economy in the world, right? There's more uncertainty. And so you don't want people to get pressured or panic into decisions, because we know, like, you never make great decisions when you're that stressed out, right? Go through the process. Ask the questions, get answers to your questions, feel good about your decision. And so that's what I hope parents are doing. They're going through that process still. And even if you have to be patient, it's just knowing that, hey, we'll get there, but let's not rush because we're worried. And that's my biggest fear, is that you'll see kids making rash decisions because they're just worried. And then you got mistakes, right? And the relationship isn't good and it doesn't work out, and you got to go recruit another guy anyway. So
I'm wondering what kind of effect that will have. Once we hit, you've seen so many of these young men in the class of 22 commit already. Mm-hmm. Sight unseen, so on and so forth. And I am curious to see what the end of the dead period and if when we resume a degree of normalcy, I'm curious to see what effect that has on the whole thing.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. I'll bring this up. I just got a memo too from compliance. It was from the NCAA, where obviously people are always looking for advantages. And so I'm sure the NCAA in looking ahead is concerned about people still recruiting in a dead period. So they issued a memo that went to all the compliance people. It was passed on to us and our coaches association as well, saying, hey, they're going to severely deal with infractions during this dead period. So I know they're trying to get ahead of it, and I don't know if there's people, cheating. That's not my point. But I guess, for people who are going to be trying to, create an advantage while other people can't recruit or are down. It looks like the NCAA has stated, hey, we're going to deal with this pretty aggressively and investigate heavily what's going on if we're notified of these things. So, it's, you still gotta watch the rules. You got to pay attention and kind of do right by these kids and parents, because if one coach is pressuring, it creates that anxiety, and then you got a bad situation. You don't want that. Kids work too hard to create these opportunities that they shouldn't feel like, hey, if I don't decide now, I won't have an opportunity.
Yeah. And we are definitely very blessed in that venue to have two people like Tom Mitchell and Jacqueline McGill, who, in addition to be very good at their jobs in regards to compliance, they also have a wonderful soft spot for wrestling, and they enjoy our sport, and they they work really hard to help us out and keep us on the up and up, and apprised of all the rules as they come along.
Yep.
Cory, you had a couple other things that are they're related to us, but they're not related to us. What else you want to dive into today?
Yeah, you mentioned before we went on air talking about Tony, you're a big college football guy. I know we've all got our NFL football allegiances, and I know yours and mine both reside in the NFC North, so we won't hash that out
my
yet.
Vikings are on the struggle bus, Cory. I'm telling you, I'm so disappointed. I don't know what to do. Give me another team, buddy.
You can always be a cheesehead, man. The Packers are flying high right now.
Oh, Coach Supone would love that. Oh,
40+ points a game. How can you 1,000 yards of offense in the first 2 games? You just can't get better than them right now.
Hey, yeah, I know. But, my 10-year-old, Mason, one of my twin boys, he alerted me this morning that the Packers are going down to play the Saints. So, and Mason's a big Drew Brees fan and Saints fan. So it's going to be a good one.
It is. Can't wait for Sunday night. That's for sure. But speaking of the NFL, they had just a crazy rash of injuries to some really high-profile guys this past weekend. It's been a rough year. With no preseason games, with an abbreviated training camp and sort of a different schedule, everything they've had to go through, maybe it's not all that surprising. Still sucks a lot for a lot of people, but maybe it's not that surprising. Spinning that back to your world, what can you do to sort of, an ounce of prevention type of an approach here?
Yeah. No, that's a great point. I don't think it's completely unexpected, obviously, with the NFL having a little less preparation time. I just think it's preparation. It's building the volume over time so that your body can handle it. Obviously, injury prevention with weight training is a huge thing, right? That's number one thing, okay? It's not just increasing power, putting on lean mass, becoming a better athlete. It's strengthening your ligaments, getting those ligaments thickened up, because that stress over time builds your ligaments as well. And that's what keeps you safe, keeps the knee tight, keeps the shoulders tight, and helps kind of mitigate injury. It's not going to alleviate it completely, but it's going to help mitigate it to some extent. So, for us, it's been very interesting, because we still don't have a start date to our season. Right. And so normally we're coming on October. October 10 is the start of the season. November 1 is first competition. We've not been told if we're going to get a compete. Obviously I doubt it, because football's not starting until October 24th, I believe.
Yep.
And it looks like men's basketball, which is a winter sport like us, is November 27th?
November, 25th.
Yep. 25th. Okay. Sorry. So I'm expecting a later start date. And so we have slowed a little bit, in those terms. And part of it is we don't need to be ready yet. And the other part is injury. You really worry about kids coming off the summer. And our kids were great. They were disciplined, but they still didn't have access to everything. There's a difference between a kid lifting weights at a gym and being able to execute, a clean, correctly and hold great form and keep the velocity that you need.
Having a coach on hand to monitor all that.
Right. And keep the form right, keep the technique right. So we're very aware of that. And we've had a little bit of that. We started really light. If you just I go to the weight room, we're doing the same thing in the wrestling room as far as it's mostly technique.
Sure.
The volume with any live is really low. Okay. But you start really light. And literally the first couple of weeks, the guys just had a bar in their hand, a barbell going through the movements for those big core movements, right? The squats, the cleans, maybe a snatch or whatever. So, and now they're building up into a heavier phase as we go. We're a little over 4 weeks in, I guess. So it's been being intentional about raising the volume slowly week by week. Yes, it's still been hard. I'm sure our guys will tell you that coach has been hard on us, because we've had some tough workouts.
Good.
But, not in ways that's going to hurt you. Your lungs are going to hurt running hills or running stairs or miles, but, it's still trust me, where we're at now and where they will be at in terms of their preparation physically and mentally in a month or two, it will be well beyond here, So, yeah, it's just that slow build. And so you worry about football. That's my thinking about, I go right away to college football, is do they have enough time? I think they do because, they know now and they're a month out.
Right.
So I'm guessing they feel like they have the ramp up time to get ready.
I know. I'm glad you took it there, because what I've been thinking while you're talking here is you're all in the same boat to some degree. Football, they've got their start date. The two basketball teams here at Purdue, they've got their start date, so they can kind of game plan. But you look at somebody like volleyball or soccer, who are normally fall sports, don't really have any idea when they're going to compete yet. Have you talked with any of the other coaches on staff? Have you talked with Coach Rolfe or Coach Shondell or any of those guys? Do you have a chance to do that? I know a lot of times you don't have time to do that, but this is a little different this year. Have you compared notes and whatnot?
It's been a little bit. Dave and I have chit-chatted here and there. Nothing I would call extensive, right? But I've seen him here and there. Maybe I saw him on the golf course, or just in the hallways and asked him, how things are going, where they're at. I know he was confident in where his team would be going in, because everybody was in the same boat. I think that's the sense that you hear from coaches. And so, I haven't gone into the extensive talk with each one about, are you worried about injuries, right? I'm not fully aware of what that may be for volleyball. We haven't had those conversations, but I think, Coach Shondell was comfortable with the amount of time he had for the skill and the conditioning aspect to be able to play and compete. He felt like, hey, we're as good as anybody, and we've all been in the same boat. So I think most coaches were comfortable. But you always want the edge, right? That's where I go, is I want the edge. I don't want to just be the same as everybody else. We want to figure out a way to pass a bunch of people. And I think I've said it on this, on our podcast ad nauseum. We want to be better. We want to come on a podcast better, having passed people. So that's the search. It's not just treading water and be the same as everybody else too. It's like, how can we be ahead of people when we're done while maintaining safety? And that's why our trainers are there. We've been told, and it's not just this year, we've been told, hey, the most powerful person in the room is the athletic trainer. When they see something, whether it looks like, hey, a guy, heat exhaustion, like when you start working out, and we started in August and it's humid and it's hot and we're just now coming back in off the summer, you're watching for guys. How are they doing? Are they staying hydrated? Are they getting a little woozy? He's the most powerful guy in the room. If he says, hey, we got to stop for that young man, then he's got to stop. You know what I mean? So, as a coach, you have to respect that. It's hard, right? Innate in us is we want to push. And that's a big deal. But certainly, that's where understanding your training cycles and giving the kids the ability to be pushed, but still not send them over the edge. That's something you got to really pay attention to.
It is. How important too is it to have that trust with your athletic trainer, with your sports performance coach to really be on the same page with those folks and them understand you as well as you understanding them?
No, I think that's huge. I think this all goes hand in hand because, again, it's just like recruiting. If you're on the same page, right, we're fighting for the same things, then you'll give trust. And that's what it's about. I've got to trust that Salerno is still going to be aggressive in his return, getting these guys back on the mat because he knows how hard they work and their goals are huge. But at the same time, hey, we're still looking out. Number one is the kid's health. His health, his safety is number one. But, hey, this young man's put a ton of work into, his career, and we got to give him the best opportunity to finish strong. That's huge, and that takes trust and being on the same page. So it takes a long time. Ryan's been with us a couple of years now, and I would say, last year we arrived in a much better place than we were the first year, just because natural evolution of him understanding me and how we do things. And Tanner can probably speak to the same thing. He's going into year 2, and he's probably got a much better handle on what I value and what's important to me, versus him and how we can make this work.
We all got to get rolling the same direction. That's always the goal, right?
Yeah. You got to roll in the same direction. It's hard enough to win national titles and do special things if you're fighting people rowing against you.
Mm-hmm.
I guess one other thing that we could dive into a little bit here. We have recently had some pretty cool events from our graduates in the mixed martial arts world. A little while back, Cash Kuroga, All-American at Purdue, won a title belt in his organization. At I think Cash down at 125 or 135. Cory, do you remember?
I think he's at 125.
I think he's at 125 too. But
back to his old weight class, huh?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah,
back
long
to his
time
old weight
ago.
class.
But yeah, so I think he was able to get his hands on a belt in his organization. Then recently Juan Archuleta took the Bellator bantamweight belt, 135 pounds. And he's been flaunting that around social media and doing his thing. And we reached out. I sent him a note. He was appreciative of our well wishes.
Yep.
That was really cool. And then on the other end of the spectrum, those are two young guys just coming up in the sport. John Fitch,
Yep.
who's had a long, prestigious career, has hung it up. He left his gloves in the middle of the ring after his last fight in Bellator.
Yeah.
So it's been interesting to see our guys continue to compete and in a combat format and have a lot of success.
Yeah, I think it's been well documented. Obviously, the transition or crossover from wrestling into the UFC, Bellator, those kinds of things is a pretty strong one. They typically have a lot of success. So it's great to see those guys, both young and old, doing well and thriving in competitive environments, right? I mean, that wrestling's competitive. These guys certainly took that, into the martial arts or the, fighting. The one thing I want to know is Cash hit high crotch in his fight though, because Cash had one of the best high crotches around when he was competing, right? I mean, he high crotched everybody. So I just want to know if he got away from the high crotch, or did he still find his way into a high crotch in his last fight?
I don't know that and again, this is a little bit of ignorance on my part. I don't know that the high C has a whole lot of transition into MMA.
I don't either. There's not much use. I'm with you, but I mean, I just can't picture him, doing something.
It's nasty.
Without hitting the high crotch. It's nasty. Yeah. Maybe a high crotch into a choke, a rear naked choke. I don't know. Transition.
I'm looking at his recent performances. The last win that he had, the finishing note that it has here is win by punches. So
TKO.
It seems like he's just out there flailing.
He's got heavy hands too.
Groundwork.
He does. I mean, Cash is such a little like pit bull, and just a tank. Always was going forward, like you said. Had that really good high C. And I've seen some of his highlights. He's throwing hands. He's throwing kicks. He has he's put some heavy stuff on guys. He's I'm looking at his record right now. He's got a 4-1 pro record. 2 wins by KO, 2 wins by TKO, and he's the king of the cage, flyweight champion as it stands.
There you go.
He's done really well.
It's good to see.
I was able to watch that last Bellator the title card that featured both Fitch and Archuleta. It was really cool to see, a couple Boilermakers on that fight card, and Fitch didn't go out the way he wanted to, but he was all class the whole way. It was so awesome watching how a professional is supposed to react, win or lose. He was great, and then Juan was it was a fantastic fight. He was in trouble the entire first 10 minutes of that bout, but he stuck with it and stuck to his game plan and came out with the belt. Tony, I'm wondering, is this something that mixed martial arts has gotten bigger and it's only going to continue growing? Is this something guys come to you to talk to you about as a potential future for them?
Yeah, over the years, 23 years of coaching, and certainly, obviously, it wasn't as big, as it is now, right? Like boxing seems to be really fading, and UFC, Bellator, those really seem to be coming on, and expanding their market. It's been something that guys have expressed an interest in and wanted to go down that path. And I think, you're always just trying to help guys get where they want to be. You know what I mean? And so I haven't had any here, you know what I mean?
Right.
but it's been something over the years that comes up from time to time. I know, if you look back from Nebraska, a lot of guys would love to see a person like Jordan Burroughs get into that. I think he's kind of, put those flames out for the most part.
Yes, he has.
He's a lover, not a fighter. It's not for everybody.
Yeah, for
but
sure.
No, the transition is so natural that I think it's just, maybe the next transition for guys who want to stay competitive, right? Like, it's really hard to give up your career. I mean, we talk about that with kids, seniors who are kind of winding down, getting ready for the workforce, what that's going to be like and how life can change. And some of these, guys, gals, they want to keep going. They want that competitive juices. They want something to train for. So it's natural, and you just try to send them on to people that can help guide them, and take them where they want to go. That's certainly not me. That wasn't my path, and I'm old enough where it wasn't a thing, for us. But now it is, and so you want to help kids and do right by them as they make that transition.
For sure. Well, congrats again to Juan on his win, and Cash for his a little further back. I gotta imagine Cash is probably going to fight again soon. I'll have to text him and see what he's got on the radar, and then obviously a huge congrats to John Fitch on a outstanding mixed martial arts career. Regarded as one of the best welterweights ever.
Yeah, longevity in a very tough sport where it's hard to have longevity. So,
Sure.
Kudos to him.
Fellas, he's about my age. I have no idea. I have trouble getting out of bed sometimes after a long walk. I don't know how you do what those guys do in their early 40s.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's trained a little harder than you, Cory.
A little bit.
No offense intended, however.
Right. Absolutely. None taken. And yeah, no doubt. Congratulations to those guys. It's a ton of fun to watch.
I think that's all we got on the radar for this week.
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, the one thing I will bring up, and I know we didn't even mention this, but we've got BRTC golf outing this weekend. I just want to give a shout out to that. Sure. I mentioned the great weather, so we're expecting tremendous weather. We're going to cross our fingers. Should be a great time for all. And if anybody wants to help out the program, please keep that in mind as we move forward.
Absolutely. Should be I checked the forecast the other day. We should have some amazing weather for Ackerman Allen out at the Berg Boilermaker Golf Complex. It should be a great day.
Looking forward to seeing a lot of family, friends, alumni, and those opportunities are a little more rare, right? I mean, it's harder, but thankfully golf is one way people can still stay active. And so we look forward to that and creating some more memories.
One thing about the last couple months, it makes you appreciate those opportunities, maybe more than in past years. Instead of it being one more thing you need to do, it's something you're really looking forward to this year. So
no doubt.
Have a ton of fun out there, guys. And we are going to take next week off on the pod, but we'll be back with you down the road. And that'll do it for this week. For Tanner and Tony, I'm Cory. Boiler up.